up, Dolphins? It's your boy Dillon, and it is another day of Dolphins news and notes. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. This first article that I have, which, by the way, the Dolphins are practicing today, so I have a little bit of information from that. But this first article I have today is from NFL Analysis Network. Okay. It is Miami Dolphins' 3 breakout candidates for the 2018 NFL season. Every season, each team has players who come out of nowhere to make a sizable contribution to the team. The Miami Dolphins are certainly no exception to that. Last year, it was Kenyon Drake coming from relative obscurity to become a household name after the unceremonious departure of Jay Ajayi. The season before, it was Jay Ajayi himself. Every season has surprises, and 2018 will too. The 2018 Miami Dolphins roster is a far cry from the squad they fielded in 2017. Between trading away Ajayi mid-season, Jay Cutler retiring again, and Ryan Tannehill rejoining the team, bringing in a number of talented free agents, and the yearly influx of youth that is the NFL draft, there are plenty of candidates for breakout performances. Having been a fan of the Dolphins my entire life, I should know better by now, but I have a lot of optimism for this team. I feel like there are 5 to 7 guys who could have a breakout season. To make this list, however, I've decided not to list rookies. It's not really fair to say they break out when there is nothing to break out from. Instead, each guy on this list has been kicking around the league at least a year. So now let's take a look at who should have a breakout year for the 2018 Miami Dolphins. First up, they have Torrey McTyer. If you've watched the NFL for, well, any amount of time really, you've heard the old adage, offense wins games, defense wins championships. That's especially true of today's pass-happy NFL. Your team isn't going anywhere if you can't defend the pass and you can't have too many good cornerbacks. The Miami Dolphins have struggled at the position at times since the departures of Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain, but it finally seems like they've figured it out. The position seems to be in good hands. One of the more intriguing camp battles for the Dolphins is the second cornerback spot. Xavier Howard is seemingly entrenched as the team's top corner. Bobby McCain is a nickel corner extraordinaire, but there's a veritable glut of guys fighting for the starting job opposite Howard. You can make the argument that with the way the league is gone, defenses today are in their nickel or dime packages a majority of the game. That starter doesn't really matter, but you best believe it matters to those guys. From everything I've heard and read out of camp, it seems like Torrey McTyer is the leader in the clubhouse to grab the second starter spot. If McTyer is in fact the guy, he will have beaten out second-year corner Cordray Tankersley and converted corner Tony Lippett, who is coming off of a knee injury, which it's not actually a knee injury, they got that wrong, Achilles injury. Anyway, Tankersley played well in his rookie season in spite of being the most targeted rookie in the NFL. McTyer getting the nod over those guys would make the 2018 Miami Dolphins 5 deep at corner and put McTyer in a great position to be one of the most talked about defenders all year. I want to say something about that real quick. I was definitely a bit concerned with last week's Friday's game, and we definitely need to see a vast improvement, especially obviously going into the regular season. But I still do think that we have, the guys in this locker room to make it happen on all levels. So, we'll see. And I think we do have far better depth, and I think that's going to be huge for us this year. We have far better depth than we've had in the past, especially the recent past. Let's see. There has been a bit of buzz in the past few days about the team bringing in Bashaud Breeland for a free agent visit, leading some to speculate the team is unhappy with the performance of their corners. While I do like the idea of bringing a veteran presence to this young group, there's a reason Breeland is still unsigned. If Miami stays patient with these guys and lets them develop, they could be a special unit, and McTyer can be a big part of that. Yeah, that's one thing about the secondary. It goes for a lot of this team, honestly, because it is a very young team, and I do think that they need to be able to develop. And really, that's on the coaching staff, and that's why the coaching staff and the culture is such a big deal, because you need to be able to get those guys, to live up to their max potential, to get the absolute most out of them. All right, number 2, Jakeem Grant. I desperately wanted this section to be about a different Dolphins receiver. I want to be able to write about how this is the year that Devontae Parker finally lives up to his potential. The year that he finally puts everything together and becomes the receiver the team and fans thought he could be. I was a huge fan of the Parker selection in 2015, and I've been rooting for the kid ever since. I'm still rooting for Parker, but I've all but given up hope of him ever having a breakout in Miami. Could he live up to the potential with a change of scenery? Maybe, but I don't think he'll ever live up to the promise in the aqua and orange. I'm giving him another chance, man. I hope he does finally this year. After this year, I may have to unfortunately cut ties with him too if that's how obviously the team decides to handle it. But I still have hope in my boy Parker, so we'll see. But anyway, with a ton of new faces in the Miami Dolphins receiver group, there are a lot of good candidates to take Parker's spot as a potential breakout candidate. The team brought in Albert Wilson from the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy who I think can come in right away and have a career year. Wilson was always an afterthought in the Chiefs' offense, but he's someone I feel brings a lot to the table and gives the position some versatility that hasn't been there in years. However, much like in Kansas City, Wilson is going to have to contend with an established number one receiver, a potential star at running back, and a talented tight end for targets. That doesn't bode well for breaking out. I could also choose perennial thorn in our side, Danny Amendola, now that he's made the journey to South Beach. Dola is a guy I've secretly loved for years, and now I don't have to hide my fandom, which is awesome. The unfortunate rub on Amendola is his history of injuries. It's hard to peg someone as a breakout candidate when you know there's a significant chance they'll miss several games. So which receiver will break out? We caught a glimpse of it towards the end of last season, and I'm hopeful that was a sign of things to come for Jakeem Grant. Grant has been one of my favorite players on the team since he was drafted, mine too, for no other reason than the long odds he faces to contribute in the NFL, and that's part of it, for me as well. Listed at 5'7", Grant has faced an uphill battle for playing time his entire career. But when finally given a shot last season, he showed he can be more than just a special teams contributor. He has the skills to be an effective, if short, outside threat. Yeah, I have to say I am slightly partial because he's my height, man. He's 5'7", and one of my dream jobs was always to play in the NFL. I never really played football back in the day, officially, for school or anything. I played a lot of football, backyard football, but anyway, so I never followed that path, but it was always a dream job. So I'm kind of hoping the little guy, the guy that's my height, my size, basically, my basic build and everything, because I feel like it's kind of a little bit of me out there, sort of, it's weird, I know. Anyway, with the acquisitions of Wilson and Amendola, the potential of Parker, and the established skills of Kenny Stills, the Dolphins are rife with talent at wide receiver. It's true, dude. This wide receiver core, even go down the list. Francis Owusu, Malcolm Lewis, Rashawn Scott, Drew Morgan, all those guys on the very back end. We're deep at receiver. If Grant can live up to the hype and put together a solid season, the Dolphins can have one of the best receiver cores in the NFL. I believe so too. After jettisoning their top target, Jarvis Landry, in the offseason. Okay? And finally, they have our man, our boy, RT17, Ryan Tannehill. If you surveyed most of NFL analysts, you'd likely find Ryan Tannehill ranked somewhere between 15 and 20 on the list of starting quarterbacks in the league. In all honesty, I don't think that's an unfair assessment at this point in his career. Tannehill's put up some impressive numbers to be sure, breaking some of Dan Marino's rookie records in the process. But in today's NFL, numbers are easier to come by than they were in bygone eras. Ultimately, quarterbacks are judged upon the success or failure of their teams, and by that measure, Tannehill comes up short so far. Since coming into the league, Tannehill has led the team to a 37-40 record and has only reached the playoffs once in his 5-year career, not including last year's stint on injured reserve for the season, because he was out with the ACL, sorry. To Tannehill's credit, however, the team hasn't always surrounded him with the talent he needs to succeed. If ever there was a year for Tannehill to truly break out, it's this one. I believe that too. I think, personally, I love Tannehill, and I think he has progressed every year. He's gotten better. He doesn't get nowhere near the credit he deserves, and people don't take into account a lot of the factors that are really important in describing and why he has or is where he is today and why his career has gone the way it has. But I think that it is true that if there is ever a year, it's this year for him. And honestly, it's the same way for Parker. So The Miami Dolphins front office has now given the veteran quarterback everything he needs to be a success. He has an improved offensive line in front of him to help keep him clean. He has a dynamic running back behind him in Kenyon Drake. They've given him weapons galore in the passing game with Drake, Kalen Ballage, Kenny Stills, Danny Amendola, Albert Wilson, and Mike Gesicki. It's now or never for the Dolphins and Ryan Tannehill. If RT17 can't put together a spectacular season and lead this team to a playoff berth, there could be some drastic changes on the horizon. I think at most the Dolphins will probably draft a quarterback next year. Gase is not gone. The coaching staff's not gone. Tannehill may or may not even be gone. I think he'd have to be pretty terrible for them to actually get rid of him. Unless they feel like he's just never actually going to be the guy, and then maybe they trade him or something like that and then draft a quarterback in this year's draft. But we'll see. This upcoming year's draft, that is. Let's see. Tannehill is running out of chances to prove that he can be the guy, and if 2018 produces another lackluster season, it may be time to look to the future. However, I firmly believe that Tannehill has all the talent in the world and is finally surrounded by a great group. I'm looking for big things from the quarterback this season. And as you guys know, I completely agree with that, and I feel the same. So, having said that, I have one more story for you guys, and then I have, just some basic news and notes from today's practice. There's not a whole lot going on. I don't know if there's going to be any press conferences. If there are, you know what's up. If not, then it is what it is. Anyway, so this article, though, this is from the Phins by John R. Kinsley. And it is breaking down Ryan Tannehill from an outsider's perspective, and I really love this article. So I'll just get right to it. Life comes full circle. Back in February 2017, I was a little-known college kid and tortured Cleveland Browns fan trying to pursue some kind of career in journalism. It was a little after Super Bowl 51, so I used that time to make several threads on several players. Little did I know that one particular thread would catch fire and give me a boost in exposure. It was a thread I did on none other than Miami Dolphins quarterback Ryan Tannehill. Dolphins fans were overwhelmingly positive about the thread, and as a result, my following skyrocketed. I credit Dolphins fans for helping kickstart my career, as due to my increased exposure, I eventually landed several jobs with fellow SB Nation site Music City Miracles, Vikings blog Purple PTSD, 49ers blog 49ers Hub, and video analysis site Dynasty Trade Calculator. That brings me to today. Recently, I was hired by the Phinsider to cover the Dolphins for the 2018 season, and I couldn't be happier to do it. So to give my gratitude to the fan base that helped increase my notoriety, I've written my first Phinsider piece on the guy that started it all for me, Ryan Tannehill, returning in action for the first time since 2016. Since 2012, Ryan Tannehill has been the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and he's one of the game's most polarizing players at the position. Through his first 5 seasons, Tannehill has completed 62.5% of his passes for 18,455 yards, 106 touchdowns, 66 interceptions, and an 86.5 passer rating. But this type of, real quick, I just want to say that that's actually really good considering everything that he's had to deal with, being the most sacked quarterback in the league, all the offensive coordinators and head coaches, blah, 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 being a wide receiver for a little while in college, blah, 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 right? All that stuff. Let's see. With this type of production, it's not a surprise that many football fans are low on him, and he's even garnered mixed opinions in Miami, because it's not as high, it's not as good as everybody would want from, the 8th overall pick. Anyway, there's reason to be skeptical about Tannehill's return. He's 30 years old and is returning from 2 knee injuries. It's an injury to the same knee, to the same thing. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. One of which kept him out of the entire 2017 season. Simply getting back on the field from that is a massive achievement. Playing the way you have prior to the injuries is even more so. Of course, many people see Tannehill as a mediocre, middle-of-the-pack quarterback that isn't good enough to make the Dolphins a playoff competitor. Some have gone to listing him as a bottom-tier player at the position. So what's the reasoning? Let's take a look at two specific viewpoints that go against Tannehill's reputation. 1. The quarterback class of 2012. Aside from the stats, consider the draft class Tannehill came from. The quarterback class from the 2012 NFL draft featured big names like Russell Wilson, who did really good in his first few years, is still a really good quarterback, solid, but they've kind of fallen off, and so is he. Andrew Luck went to the postseason the first few years and has seriously fallen off, and now it has far more injury concerns than Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion. Kirk Cousins, he struggled, bounced around. He got, franchise tagged by the Redskins 3 years in a row, which is crazy. And now he's doing pretty well for himself. He's got a good contract, so he's solid. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Robert Griffin III. Well, he's been a hack and a scrub the entire time, except for his very first year. So, okay, whatever. And Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles. Well, he's just been a backup his entire career, and, he was in a good position, man. And he's a solid quarterback, but mostly a backup. That's a lofty list of significant quarterbacks, and anyone who isn't as good as Wilson or Luck doesn't get talked about as much. Number 2, comparisons to Dan Marino. We hear this one a lot. The NFL's fan base has expected Tannehill to be on the level of a Hall of Fame quarterback like Dan Marino, a rare generational talent whose level few quarterbacks have even reached. Despite never winning a Super Bowl, Marino's greatness is recognized because how he raised the bar for quarterback play in the 80s and 90s, so Tannehill being below Marino is seen as a disappointment. No, which, as he mentioned earlier, though, he actually beat a bunch of Marino's rookie records. But anyway, no, Ryan Tannehill is not as good as Russell Wilson or Andrew Luck. I actually disagree with that. I think he is at least as good as those guys, and in fact better. But better than Luck, I would say for sure. Russell Wilson, I'd say they're pretty close overall. But anywho, no, he is not near the quality of a guy like Dan Marino either. Not yet. But you know what? He's a good, sometimes really good quarterback in his own right, one of the most misunderstood ones at that. That is for sure. While Tannehill has never had the lofty stats as some of his peers, he's rarely been in adequate environments for quarterback play. Fact. He's played behind some of the worst offensive lines in the league. Fact. He had the pleasure of being coached by Joe Philbin in his first 4 years. Not a pleasure. And his receiving core haven't exactly been as good as many people believe. More on that later, though. When guys like Luck and Wilson are able to put up monster stats in similar situations, it's no surprise that the blame for the Dolphins' mediocrity gets passed on to Tannehill. When healthy, Luck has been a top 5 quarterback, and Wilson, of course, is in that area. But just because Tannehill is not on that level doesn't mean he isn't capable of good or great quarterback play. In fact, I see Tannehill as a bright spot for a team that has been middle of the pack. He's been provided with flawed supporting casts, and yet he's been able to make those offenses look competent. Absolutely. So with that in mind, I'm going to illustrate why I view Ryan Tannehill as a very good, underrated quarterback below. The most severely undervalued strength of Ryan Tannehill's game is his accuracy as a downfield passer. He's generally an accurate quarterback, but it's especially true on the more vertical throws. In the 2016-17 Deep Ball project, Tannehill had the 4th highest accuracy on throws of 16 plus air yards and was second on throws of 20 plus. When Adam Gase, and everybody that gave him shit for not being able to throw the deep ball is completely full of it. When Adam Gase came in, he didn't fix Tannehill like many people assumed he did with Jay Cutler in 2015, as much as he gave him a more clearly defined offense that allowed him to throw with precision in the intermediate and vertical fields. No play better highlights Tannehill's downfield accuracy than the 39-yard touchdown to Kenny Stills against the Chargers in Week 10 of the 2016 season. The placement of this pass is impossible. Tannehill, as he's about to get drilled, places the ball in a spot where Stills can comfortably get it while the defensive back guarding Stills can only look and watch. It's one of the best throws I've ever seen. Despite his reputation, Tannehill is one of the more exciting skill sets at quarterback. Before his last 2 knee injuries, he was a very mobile passer with fluid pocket movement and rare ability to throw accurately rolling out of the pocket. This is a sensational play that demonstrates the quality Tannehill brings as a passer on the run. The Steelers bring a 4-man rush and the center gets overwhelmed and allows pressure through the A-gap. As Tannehill pump fakes, the center inadvertently buys Tannehill time by running into him and obscuring the one technique from sacking him. With this, Tannehill scrambles left and buys a much as much time as possible before heaving a bomb to Marquise Gray for 53 yards. Tannehill's arm strength on this play is ludicrous as he's throwing across his body, running for his life. Now, a big reason for Tannehill's lack of pretty statistical production comes from the receiving core he's played with. Kenny Stills is good, but I've never been a big Jarvis Landry fan, which I've made pretty clear in the past. Landry to me has never been a threat vertically, and while he gobbles up a lot of yards after the catch, many times he's shown hesitation in space instead of going up gaps he's granted, so his heavy production limited the Dolphins' offense. Absolutely. That's one thing that, people don't understand about Landry. Anyway, ironically, he's now on the very team I grew up rooting for, the Browns. This is what the scholars call karma. Another issue is Devontae Parker, who has not lived up to the hype since entering the league. While talented, Parker's failures at the catch point have not only prevented him from seeing his potential, but have also left a lot of plays on the field. This is a throw Parker has to haul in. Tannehill holds onto the ball long enough for Parker's route to develop and delivers the ball on time. It's high but catchable and placed in a spot where only Parker can get it. Parker rewards Tannehill with a drop on what should have been a touchdown. It only gets worse from here. Nowhere did Parker show his limitations at the catch point more than this play. This is an interception strictly on the receiver, not the quarterback. Tannehill places the ball in a spot where Parker can make a play. As this is happening, the safety comes over to make a play on the ball himself. Parker has to go up and attack the ball at the risk of being hit, but instead plays this softly and allows the safety to completely overwhelm him for the interception. This is what was so frustrating about Tannehill's receiving core through the first 5 seasons of his career, and precisely why the revamped unit he has this season is exciting. Danny Amendola is a quality slot receiver. Albert Wilson is a big upgrade over Parker. Mike Gesicki is a potential monster at tight end, and that leaves Kenny Stills in a role where he could be the number 1 wide receiver after the trade of Landry. The additions of guard Josh Sitton and center Daniel Kilgore alongside tackle Laramie Tunsil should upgrade the offensive line, and that's good because Tannehill has been asked to do a lot under pressure. But contrary to what some Dolphins fans may think, Tannehill has been really good under duress. Tannehill rarely flinches under pressure, at least when fully healthy. He's understood that he's going to take hits and needs to successfully complete passes in spite of that, and it's a trait that's been overlooked by casual football fans. Here, the Patriots send a stunt on Tannehill's blindside. Tannehill is able to spot the stunt while also spotting tight end Deion Sims going towards the left numbers. A lesser quarterback would flinch and make a desperation throw off his back foot, affecting the accuracy of his throw. But Tannehill remains poised throughout, making a subtle move to his left before delivering the throw to Sims on time. This pressure play is even better. It's a simple 3-step drop from Tannehill in shotgun, but the left guard lets pressure go up the B gap. These are the plays that tell you how truly poised a quarterback is and if they can stand in the pocket under heavy pressure and deliver accurate throws. This is what's so undervalued about Tannehill. He can stand tall under pressure and deliver it accurately to boot. Just before he gets wrecked, he fires a beautiful pass to an open Parker. The beauty of this play is Tannehill's mechanics remain smooth. They don't break down like certain quarterbacks under pressure. Joe Flacco and Derek Carr come to mind. And this tells us how disciplined of a pocket passer he really is. Conclusion. The main concern for Ryan Tannehill in 2018 is if he'll ever play at 100% again coming off 2 knee injuries. It's a lot to ask for, but if he does, he's an underrated, invaluable quarterback for the Dolphins. A lot of people sarcastically say this is the year Ryan Tannehill puts it together, but they're missing the point. Tannehill has put it together. He's just done it behind bad supporting casts. If he's healthy, he's getting an improved offensive line and, to me, an improved receiving core with a greater emphasis on speed and a backfield with a full year of Kenyon Drake and exciting young back. On defense, the secondary looks like it'll be really good as well. Considering Tannehill started out as a wide receiver at Texas A&M, that he's been able to play as well as he has is extremely impressive. He's a disciplined pocket passer with a dangerous downfield accuracy, great arm strength, is exceptional as a rollout passer, and is overall better than most people will ever give him credit for. He's a quality quarterback, and the Dolphins should be glad to have him as the starter. It will take a while for Tannehill to shake off the rust early on, but when he does, he's arguably the most underrated quarterback in football. I love that take on it. It's brilliant, and he's absolutely correct about all of that. Okay, real quick, I'm going to give you Bleacher Report's updated power rankings. Let's see where they have us this time. 32, Tampa Bay. Oh, look at this. We're still at 31. Fabulous. It didn't take long for our new tiebreaker to come into play. The Dolphins tied the Buccaneers in aggregate ranking, but BR NFL analyst Gary Davenport's slotting of Miami at number 29 gives them the number 31 slot in these rankings. Chant along at home, we're not last, we're not last. Since it was Davenport who broke the tie, we let him explain why the Dolphins aren't the worst team in the league, or even, in his opinion, the worst team in the AFC East. Don't get me wrong, Davenport said, the Dolphins are not a good football team. Wrong. See, that's the thing. A lot of people think that, and we're going to surprise them. I can't wait, dude. It's going to be great. The pass catching core is a mess. Both lines are question marks, and if the first team linebackers play all season the way they have to date this summer, the team's going to allow 427 yards a game on the ground. But Miami at least has a quarterback in Ryan Tannehill who has shown he can be reasonably competent when healthy, unlike the Buffalo Bills quarterbacks, and the secondary and ground game are better than the Buccaneers. Miami will win just enough to mess up its draft slot. That endorsement didn't ring even a little. Then they have Bills at 30, Jets at 29, this is crazy. Cardinals at 28, Browns at 27, Colts at 26, Bengals at 25, Skins at 24, Raiders at 23, Seahawks at 22, Broncos at 21, Lions at 20, Giants at 19, Bears at 18, Ravens at 17, 49ers at 16, 15 is Cowboys, Panthers are 14, Kansas City is 13, Texans 12, Titans 11, Chargers 10, Packers 9, Jags 8, Falcons 7, Steelers 6, Patriots 5, Saints 4, Vikings 3, Eagles 2, and Rams they have at number 1. There's a whole lot wrong with those rankings, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, we're certainly not going to be the 31st team. I can tell you that much. That is for absolute sure. Okay, so now just real quick, I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple things, just a couple quick notes from today's practice. From Armando Salguero, William Hayes, Mike Holland, Devontae Parker still not practicing. Adam Beasley concurs with that. Kenny Stills is working today. Kalen Ballage is still in the concussion protocol and not practicing, as is Marquise Gray, according to Armando Salguero. Chris Perkins, let's see, Joe Shad, Omar Kelly, they all confirm that. Let's see, they're in shorts and shoulder pads today. And that seems to be about it. So, and also too, they did release a depth chart entering this third preseason game. So I will have that up for you too, just so you can see it. And with that, that will be the end of today's show. So I hope you guys like it. If you do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please share it with your friends. Spread this around. I'm trying to grow it as fast as possible. I know it's kind of a lofty goal, but I'm going to try and hit 100 subscribers by the time the season starts, by the time our first game. And who knows, if we can spread and build fast enough, maybe by the end of the year I can hit my 1,000 subscribers. So we'll see. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And with that, like I said, hit the like button, leave your comments, questions, all that stuff. Subscribe and share it with your friends. And with that, I will see you guys soon. Fins up.
I called him last week. We were just talking about some stuff, and I always feel like he's got a lot going on, and he'll say he doesn't, but I know he does. And I asked him if he had any time this week with us kind of getting an in-season, week of practice and game planning, things like that. Asked him to come down, and he was available, so he was able to come down this whole week and kind of spend some time with us. Thought it'd be good because some of our coaches know him, some of them don't. And, it's been great for me because I've been able to pick his brain on just some different things that we've never really talked about before.
How would you describe his influence in your career? What did you learn? What have you learned?
I mean, the majority of what I've learned is from him. especially about offensive football, but also, how to present in front of players, whether it be installing things, just like those side conversations with guys and in front of the group of, I don't know if you really want to call it motivation, but I think maybe more confidence. I think he was one of the best. He's the best one I've ever been around as far as when he was in front of the group. You walked out of the room, you thought you were going to score 60 every game. So he could make you could feel that from him, that he believed that. And that was something I think just watching him as many times as I did, it just kind of rubbed off on me.
Adam, we saw Robert Quinn with the 2 sacks, but how many other plays was he a part of? Like I believe the first play of the game that he was uncanned with that incompletion to McCaffrey.
I think he has, like, he's one of those guys that's going to have a lot of hidden kind of, I don't want to call them stats, but there's going to be hidden plays that people won't be able to look back and say, this is on a stat sheet. He's very disruptive, and the offense feels him out there all the time. And it may look different the way that he kind of goes after the run game. A lot of times he can get a guy to stop his feet and redirect, and that's enough time for our guys to swarm and make a play. And, I mean, he definitely is going to need to be accounted for in the pass rush.
And how has he teamed with Cam Wake so far in the pass rush?
Well, I mean, it's just the pocket's collapsing quickly, and that's really what we're looking for. And it's really going to come down for us is how many opportunities we can give those guys. I mean, that group's pretty deep, and I think that what's valuable to us is guys are going to be fighting for playing time. So every time they're in there and it's a passing situation, I think we're going to get great energy on the field of guys getting after the quarterback.
What are you guys having Devontae do while he's hurt?
He's a lot of conditioning, just trying to make sure we don't lose that. He still can't catch a ball. So he's been very engaged in all the meetings. I know he doesn't want to take any steps back mentally, because if he wasn't in our meetings, it's just easy to get away from it, and you're not going to forget everything, but just hearing the little details over and over again, so it's second nature. He doesn't want to lose that, and I know he worked hard to make sure he was in great condition. He was able to run the entire training camp without having any kind of fatigue issues, and I know he doesn't want to lose that.
Does he run routes or anything without catching the ball?
Yeah, we can do all that stuff. We can work the cones, all those type of things. He's doing it with the trainers.
What is your comfort level with the linebacker core?
My confidence is growing with them. They're young. We're going to have mistakes. I think Kiko I almost feel like it's 2 years ago. I think last year off season was tough for him. He was coming off with a hand. He couldn't do what he wanted to do in the off season. I know when he came to training camp, he was lighter, and he was still trying to get used to using, his hand and not worry about it. And he's really been performing the way we need him to perform. And then we just need those 2 young guys to just keep growing and keep learning. And we know there's going to be mistakes, and we're going to be all right with that, because we feel like it's important to those guys. They work really hard to correct those mistakes.
What did you see from Kenny his first day back, and how far is he from 100%?
I don't know if anybody's ever really going to be 100%, but I think it amazes me that he can come back out there and run the amount he does. He missed a good, healthy amount of time. But I think today it was more mental for him than anything, of just pushing through. It gets a little hot and just keep fighting through, the whole heat element of everything. But seemed like he was fine.
Where are you guys in terms of Lyon's pocket presence and how comfortable he's been in the pocket? He said he hasn't been hit so far in the first 2 games, and knock on wood there. But is that because of the chemistry they're developing, or his timing and footwork?
I think he's doing a good job getting the ball out, but I also think he's got a lot of space. I don't know if he's really used to this. It's been, our guys up front have taken a lot of pride in making sure he hasn't got touched, and the 2 times he has actually been knocked down have been almost like not late hits, but just like those late grabs where he was a little bit off balance, and it was almost like he fell. So I think the line's done a great job, not only in pass protection but in the run game. We have things to clean up, but I like where we're trending.
You guys haven't taken a ton of shots with the ones in games over these. Is that just by how the game's gone? I mean, things we fouled off
It's who we're playing. It's hard to take shots when they are 10 to 15 yards off. That's why Carolina was 1 or 2 in every category. They let you get those yards, and they just say you're not going to get in the end zone. That's why they were top red zone defense. So, they didn't give up a whole bunch of balls over 20 yards last year. And I remember that going into the game. So, the thing that we needed to do different that last game was when we got in the red zone, we needed to execute and put it in the end zone. We didn't do that.
So I don't know if you have a secret list of 53 players that are going to be Miami Dolphins this year, but how many jobs legitimately would you say are open?
I don't know. That's like, I don't think that way. We're just going to keep playing, and then when we get time and it's time to make those cut downs, like, we'll sit in a room and deal with that. But it's hard for me to even really put a number to anything. I can go in there right now and look at a roster and probably have an idea of where those position battles are, but we're going to play this thing out. That's the beauty of what we're going through right now, and being able to keep as many guys as we can to just keep competing, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Does Bryce Petty have a legitimate shot to be the backup?
I think everybody right now in that room, we're just going to keep competing and give reps, and really this game is going to be so much about the ones, and then how's it going to turn out when those guys go out, how many plays are going to be available. We got 3 guys we want to play in the game, so we just got to kind of see how it goes.
Is there a difference in a free safety and a strong safety between mentality? Does a free safety choose to keep things in front of them more, and the strong safety goes for the kill shot more?
I think every defense is different. I think for us, our guys are pretty much interchangeable, but at the same time, we got a pretty good idea that when we have 20 down in the box, it's really good for us because the guy's a tackling machine, and I don't think our other guys are really afraid to mix it up either between TJ and Minka. Those guys come up pretty quick, and that's why Minka has extra value with being able to play nickel. That helps us in the run game because those receivers can't block them.
Do Rashad and TJ have the, free safety mentality of keeping everything in front of them? Was that an issue last year?
Last year was so different than what it was. I think when TJ missed 8 weeks, that just kind of threw us. He was trying to come back and do everything he could to help us. He was playing well in training camp, then just leaving and then trying to jumping right back into it. I think this year I noticed even growth from last training camp, especially knowing when he can come down, take his shots, and maybe cut across or whatever they're doing in the passing game to where he can be effective. So, I do think he has that ability to keep things in front of him, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to really lose that aggression that he has naturally.
With the defensive tackle position, now that you're facing the Ravens this week, what do you expect from that unit or hope to see?
As far as our defense?
Defensive tackles.
I think our defensive tackles have actually done a decent job. We just have to fit these things right. When we do get these guys covered up front, we got free, our linebackers are running free, we got to make those plays. We got to fit the gaps right. And I think Spence has done a good job. It's amazing to me to watch him attack an offensive lineman. He must have some strong hands because when he hits those guys, you see movement, you see some pop there. And he's not a huge guy, but he's one of those guys that just have some kind of strength that you just can't teach. And getting Jordan kind of going again, and Godchild and Vince has been very productive. As soon as we put pads on, Vince shows up. You know, so we just need to keep getting better at that spot. I know Chris is really working on getting those guys attacking the way he wants and causing chaos.
How have you seen Frank help Kenny and his team?
Frank's one of those guys. Just watch what he does. That's what makes him different. He's not afraid to say something if he needs to. But I think Kenyon's done a good job of just watching what he does. And Frank's such a pro. I mean, just watch him get ready for practice. You know, he's always out there early. He's always doing something. And then it's hard to keep him off the field in practice. You know, you try to rest him and, you know, just be like, hey, you know, 35 now. He don't care. He acts like he's 23, which I love. And then when you watch him run, then you get even more excited, you know, to really get him on the field and get this thing rolling.
That's good.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, if you did, please hit the subscribe button, you know, share it with your friends, post on Facebook, you know, whatever. Hit the like button, and definitely leave me some comments, questions, concerns, anything you'd like to see or hear in the videos, you know, stuff like that. So definitely let me know. And of course, the most important thing is subscribe. So with that said, I'll see you guys soon, and fins up.